What's happening, everybody? Jason Wright here. No Brandy this week, but I've got an awesome guest with me. I've got Dana Wilde from The Mind Aware, and I'm really excited to talk to her. You guys are going to like this one. She's a best-selling author of Train Your Brain. She's also a podcast host of The Mind Aware Show, but she's got a couple hundred more episodes than I do, so a bunch of respect there. And she went from $0 to $1 million in less than 19 months. Dana, welcome to the show.
Yay, hi, welcome. I'm so glad to be here. I can't wait to jump in.
Awesome. So I'm always curious with people, and you can run this any way you want to, the long version, the short version, but tell me about your journey to get from wherever you started to where you're sitting right now.
Okay, I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of the long version. So here it is. So back in the day when I got out of high school, I went straight into one of those cubicle jobs. You know, I never went to college, just went straight to where I was wired into a headset, much like I am today, except the difference was I had to ask permission to like go to the bathroom and things like that. And I was miserable, just miserable. But one of the benefits of this major corporation that I worked with was they put everybody in the company through a course. It was a 40-hour course about how the brain works. And I was kind of one of these geeks in high school where I read all those psychology, I'm okay, you're okay books kind of a thing. Yeah. And so when I got this course, it was like, oh my gosh, you know, angels sang and the skies parted. And I thought, I really get it. I really get when this idea that what you think about creates your reality. Like it was such a shocker. So I immediately quit the cubicle job and I started what I call my grand adventure. You know, I ended up becoming a published author at 23. I worked in film and video. I won 2 Telly Awards. I lived out of a backpack overseas for about 10 years. Wow. And then I came back to the United States and I realized like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm 39 years old. I can't put anything on a resume. I've got no college degree. Like, what am I going to do? And so while I was working in film and video, I ended up falling into one of those home party plan. Like you go to a party and I was like, okay, I could sell this stuff. So I started the company, you know, like working my business. And I realized everybody was teaching how to pick up the phone, how to go to networking meetings, all this stuff. And I thought, why is nobody teaching mindset? You know, because really I had been living this life of adventure basically just out of pure thin air, you know, out of mindset. And I thought somebody needs to be teaching people that what really creates your outcomes is the way you think. So I wrote Train Your Brain at that time and I taught it to my team members. And we ended up going from $0 to $1 million in a year annually in sales in the 19-month period. It just shattered the company record. And maybe as far as direct sales go, in-home party plan, maybe even industry-wide, but for sure just shattered the company record. So I built that business for that's all right. I built that business for about 6 years and then I sold it. And I thought I was going to kind of semi-retire and just like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but people kept asking for Train Your Brain. So I founded the Mind Aware and I came out with the Train Your Brain CD set, like as my first product, and same exact results there. Within the first 2 years, we went from $0 to $1 million in sales. We had 60,000 on our email list within the first 2 years. Wow. And really just teaching other people that mindset matters most. And if you want to build a business in an easier and quicker way, action is not the path. You have to start with mindset. And when you get your mindset right, and we've got very specific steps for how to do that, then you can take almost any action and you're going to meet with greater success. So that's the short version.
I love it. You said something super interesting to me that I wanted to kind of peel back because it's just, it's so funny. So you talked about you didn't have anything to put on your resume. Yeah. You know, at one point in this journey for me, so I quit corporate America twice, failed horribly the first time because I was just chasing money. You know, I hadn't discovered that intersection of passion and skill. And I remember that I was trying to get jobs in digital marketing, which I had no professional marketing background, but I was starting to make some money for myself. And no one would even talk to me about marketing. They would give me the cold shoulder and I was like, wait, like I'm good. Like I'm good at these areas and I'm talking about coming to work for you. And they were like, no interest. no interest at all, you know, and I would be an employee or employer's worst nightmare now
I
because
was going to say it's probably a blessing, right?
it
Like if you
is,
think
but
about it,
it's
I
so
always say like I'm
funny.
completely unemployable.
Oh yeah. It's so funny how in one like sandbox you have no value and in the other one it's like you have infinite value.
Yeah,
So,
it's totally true. And I think, there's an entrepreneurial gene that,
yep.
as entrepreneurs, we don't talk about. Like, I think there's a lot of us that just are unemployable. We
Yep.
just are always thinking about, like, I mean, as a kid, I was lemonade stands and
Mhm.
babysitting. And anyway, I love money, so I was always thinking about, like, how can I make more money?
Absolutely. No, that's beautiful. It's man, congrats to all the success you've had to this point. You were saying some things and I was thinking Napoleon Hill, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
very.
that was one of the books when I got serious because I did the entrepreneurship thing as a kid. Like when I was 14, I loved to fish. And at a certain point, my mom's like, and I actually used to come to Minnesota where you are and
Oh,
fish
wow.
boundary waters and go after the big toothy fish, you know.
Oh,
And
yeah.
at a certain point, my mom's like, you have enough fishing tackle. And I was like, I'm just getting started. She's like, you're 13, like you're good. And I was like, I want more. Like, what am I going to do? She's like, go make money somehow. So
Go
I
get a
started cutting
job.
grass and I had no bills. So 75 bucks a week, I was getting a lot of fishing tackle back in the early
Wow.
90s. So I got that bug early. And then, when I graduated, everybody's like, go to college and do that. And I never was bought into it. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to talk about my career. It sounds depressing. I don't want to work for somebody to come. You know what I mean? It never made sense. And then after about 7 years, I'm like, yeah, I'm out. I'm not going to do this. So,
That's
um,
awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
it's awesome. I mean, there is it's and in regard to the Napoleon Hill, I mean, I think there's a lot of people out there talking about mindset, and certainly Think and Grow Rich is like the Bible that a lot of people have followed, myself included. I've read it many times. I think what I wanted to do in the marketplace that was a little different was that I heard everybody talking about things like what you focus on grows, or what you think about you bring about, or you have to believe in yourself, or all this. But I wanted to tell people why.
yeah,
Why is it that what you focus on grows? Like, how does it work?
nice.
Why is it that your brain is set up to give you the results, and do it in language of somebody who's only got a high school education? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not some Harvard researcher on happiness, and bless all of those people who do that. But I'm just a really simple person who mispronounces almost half of the words that I say from Minnesota, and I've got that Minnesota accent, and I'm just trying to help people get it, that mindset is not woo woo.
Yeah.
It's important.
Yep. It's funny because as soon as you spoke, I was like, she's from up north because my
Yeah.
mom still speaks with a central Wisconsin accent. So when my mom says like bag, she
Yeah.
says bag. And my kids
Big,
are
me
always like,
too.
hey, mama, bag, bag.
Bag.
They
Yeah.
tease her.
Can I get a rag? Can I have a
Yep.
bag?
And it's funny because sometimes I'm with her and people are like, what? And I'm like, come on, it's not that hard. She said rag. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's,
I get that all the time. Most of my family's in Kansas City now,
oh
so
boy.
they've got,
Yeah.
the central accent.
Very nice. I
Mm.
love it. So we've been talking about mindset. Let me ask you, I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Do you think mindset is something that we're born with, kind of intrinsically strong, like, maybe mine's stronger than somebody else's, or can people be trained to make theirs stronger? Is it something that can be perfected? But
Yes, good question. I'm so happy you asked that, because yes, the answer is yes. I do think, and they've proven it, as much as you can say something's been proven, that people do have a propensity to being more optimistic or less optimistic, and
Mhm.
that's all okay. What we've discovered with Train Your Brain is that the more negative you are, and the more negative your upbringing has been, the faster what I teach you will work. And the reason why, if you think about it, it makes perfect sense, is because if you've been banging around with a negative attitude and you're at like a level 3, and you've been just getting a certain amount of results, when you apply just a little bit of this, you go zing right up to a 10. If you've been banging around at a 7 or 8, I mean, I can bring your life to a 10, but it's not that big of a jump,
Yeah.
right? And so yes, this can be trained, and honestly, it's so ridiculously simple. Like, I could tell you in 3 minutes or less the most important thing you need to know, and anybody listening can just run with it, because once you know this one little thing, which I'm happy to share with you, the rest opens up the whole world for you. You ready?
I'm so curious. You have to tell me
Okay,
now.
so here it is. Here's the most important thing. Every single person has in their brain a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. And I'm sure people have heard that word before. But here's the important part about the reticular activating system. What I want you to think about it is like it's a little matchmaker that lives in your head. And it stands at attention all day, every day, and it listens. What are you thinking about? And what are you talking about? That's all it does. And if you look around the room you're sitting in and look at the stimulation, the colors and sounds and sensations and stimuli, like we'd go nuts if we had to process all this. So the reticular activating system processes it for us. And if you've ever had the experience of looking for a car or looking for a new car and you start to see that car everywhere you go, or sometimes people, you know, a pregnant woman will see pregnant women, or I was interviewed the other day, the podcast host who just had a baby. He's like, oh my God, I'm seeing babies everywhere. Well, this is the reticular activating system. It listens. What are you thinking about? What are you talking about? And it says, Dana, this must be important to you. I'm going to look for more of that. Mm-hmm. And it sifts through and it finds it for you. So once you get that, like really get it, then you no longer indulge yourself in thinking that you don't want to match up. Every thought becomes, do I want my brain to go to work for me, giving me more of this? And if you don't, then you have got to train your brain. And that's what we teach people how to do.
Beautiful. I love it. So let me ask you this. When you think about, I'm sure you've talked to a ton of entrepreneurs and wantrepreneurs and stuff like I have, but where do you think most of them go wrong?
Oh, this is a good one too. You're a good interviewer. Okay, so here's how it works. Most entrepreneurs, here's what they do. They start their business. They're super excited. They're talking to everybody about it. They're even getting results because they just are like, we call it ignorance on fire, right? They have no idea what they're doing, but they're just so excited. People are like, wow, well, what is that? And people are signing up, or they're, you know, buying, or they're having all these successes. Then they have the first thing that's a block or an obstacle. And they have that thought that's like, oh, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. And now they turn all their attention from all of the fun, happy, feel good, wow, this is so easy thoughts to, oh my gosh, this isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be. Now they start thinking that thought, well, this is harder than I thought. Well, actually, there's this problem too, and this is harder than I thought, and this is harder than I thought. Oh my gosh, I thought this was going to be easier, and oh, now I'm going to have to do all that. And their little reticular activating system goes, aye, aye, Captain, I got it. We're going to keep making it harder than you thought it'd be, because that's my job, is to match up what you're thinking about over and over again. And so if the people understand that you can choose your thoughts and that you can choose your focus, whatever you choose to focus on, like the biggest tip I can give any entrepreneur is every single day, make a list of what's going right. Just make a list of what's going right, because the more you focus on the things that are going right, it can be like, you know, oh, I talked to a client today, or, oh, I heard that great podcast with Jason today. Yeah. You know, it can be anything. Focus on what's going right and only what's going right. That's it. You know, if something goes wrong, take the lesson and then ignore it. Yep. And then just focus 100% on what's going right, and you're going to get more of that.
I like the way you put that, because something I talk to people about a lot is similar, but I describe it differently, but I really like that. I say, focus on the wins, even if they're tiny wins, because yes. wins build momentum.
Boom.
And in that honeymoon phase of entrepreneurship that you're talking about, it's like the most exciting thing in the world. And as soon as people get that first wave of doubt or fear that's like crippling, it kills their momentum, and it's so hard to get started again.
Yes, exactly right. And I love that you say that, because it's about focusing on the wins. And I'll tell you something, this isn't that hard to turn around. You know, I didn't call my company the Mind Happy. I called my company the Mind Aware. And the reason I called it the Mind Aware is because it really just starts with, and we like to call it, busting yourself. Yeah. You know, if you catch yourself having that thought, or you catch yourself in that moment of frustration, that's your moment. You don't need to beat yourself up and say, oh, here I am, I'm thinking a negative thought again. You have to go like, oh my God, I caught it. There it is. That's the thing my brain's matching. Good for me for being aware and catching that. And then, you know, that's step one of the process. Step two is you have to decide, do you want to keep matching that? And if you don't, then all the work is in step 3, which is you must find a way to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good. And if you can find a way to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good, in step 4, feel that positive emotion, that's it. You don't have to walk around. I mean, it's nice if you can say affirmations like money is flowing to me in abundance and all that, but you don't have to do that. You just have to find a way to be more hopeful and to stay in hope more often. Because if you can be more hopeful and stay in hope more often, your brain will take you the rest of the way there.
It's interesting. I'd love you to, maybe this is the wrong word, diagnose me with this. This is an
Oh,
interesting
yes.
thing about myself, is when I get to a point where I'm not happy with where the business is, I eventually get to a point where I get pissed off. And when I get pissed off, stuff gets done fast and
Yeah.
very successfully.
Yes.
And it's like, you know what? I don't have enough money coming in. I'm going to bring on new retainer clients. I'm going to find new work, and it's happening today. And it's
Yeah.
amazing that I'll go find business and close it. And I'm like, how do I do that so well?
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
idea what I'm doing there?
Yes, I do. I have my own ideas about it anyway. I don't claim I'm not a psychologist and I don't play one on TV, but here's we have a thing we call the emotional scale, and anger is the first emotion that's an active emotion.
Yep.
And so most people, if they were thinking like, would I rather be depressed or laying in bed and feeling like lethargic, or would I rather be angry? Most people would pick angry, because at least you feel like you're doing something then.
Yep.
And there are lots of ways to get yourself fired up. So some of the ways to get fired up is to take a walk around the block and just like clear your head, or put some music on and dance in your office and like jump up and down. Some that you can think mantras or do. And your belief system, you have a belief system that's working for you that says, when I get pissed off and I get fired up, I get stuff done, and then I motivate myself and I move myself to a better emotional place. And so it works for you. It totally works for you to do that because it matches your belief system. But if it were, I would be curious to ask you, when you're having that thought process and you're feeling like, God damn it, I'm just sick of this, and I'm going to get something done, and I'm going to make some movement, and I'm going to make phone calls or whatever it is. When you have that, does it get you to an emotional state where you're almost kind of fired up and excited to make
I
calls?
feel like, I feel like I'm at the peak of my game in high school basketball, like in the most important game of my life. I'm like, just get me on the court. And the coach is like, you're in. I get that adrenaline rush. I'm like, let's go. Who's going to stop me? Like,
Yes.
my mentality is, unless I have a heart attack and die, like, I'm going to succeed, because who's going to stop me?
Yes. So you're calling it anger, but I think what's happening is, I think your anger is inspiring you further along the emotional scale.
Yep.
So we call, I have a thing, we call it intentional action.
Yep.
And what I mean is, feel good first, then take action. So many people, they'll get frustrated with their business, and they'll be like, oh, I'm frustrated. Oh, screw it. I'm just going to sit down and plow through this, because if I don't discipline myself, then somebody else is going to discipline me. And they're in that blah, 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 plotting mentality where they're trying to get something done. And nothing goes right then. And it takes forever to do it. And so actually what you're doing naturally is what we would tell people to do. Awesome. Which is say, go get yourself fired up first, and then sit down at the computer and watch what happens. Then whatever you touch turns to gold, because you are in that state of unstoppable. Like, I'm a freight train, and I'm going to mow this thing over, and I'm going to be in the zone, and it's going to feel good. And
I wouldn't want to get in my way.
Yeah, exactly. And most successful people, they do these things naturally. Mm-hmm. And so people will say to them, how are you successful? And they'll say, wow, I've really had a lot of luck with LinkedIn. And let me tell you about LinkedIn, because it's so natural to them. They don't think to say, well, I've got a different mindset than other people.
Yeah.
But that's the common denominator. The common denominator is mindset. That's why mindset is first stop. And yes, you can train it.
What's interesting about what you're saying is, when I started this brand, Intentionally Inspirational, I was writing blogs and I was motivating people, but I didn't really know who I was talking to. So this name came to me in the middle of the night, and I said, I don't know what it means, but it's going to be something significant in my life. And I was like, I don't know how to make money with motivation. Like, I don't know how to do it, but that piece of me is important, and that piece of me exists. So I figured out that if I learn marketing, I can get more people in front of my blogs. And I was like, oh, wow, there's people that need help with this. So then most of my money comes from digital marketing, specifically sales funnels. But what's funny is the kind of the trifecta that stops entrepreneurs that I see is marketing, motivation, and mindset. And it's a lot of the same stuff you're talking about. And it's
Totally. Totally. And you're right. You're right. Because once you're, I'm a very practical person, right? I'm from Minnesota. You can understand this because, you're similar cultures. And so for me, it kind of has to be practical. And and what I want people to understand is feeling good and getting yourself fired up and being motivated and being happy, it's practical. Because when you're frustrated, you are restricting the creative pathways in your brain. You literally don't have access to good ideas. But when you get yourself feeling good and fired up and knowing and have positive expectation, now you have access to good ideas. That's when you get the different ideas for your business. When you are excited and fired up, you feel like taking action. When you are fired up, you feel like engaging with people. You like people better, right? They like you better. You show up in the world in a better way. You get into the zone in a better way. You work less because you're more effective when you're working. People often say, well, do you want me just to sit in my living room and think happy thoughts and hope that money falls in my lap? And I say, yes, sit in your living room and think those happy thoughts and see how long you can do that before you're so fired up you have to take action, because you can't just sit and think happy thoughts for more than 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 minutes before you're ignited into action.
Yep.
And then you're ignited into the right kind of action.
You have an awesome, authentic energy, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Right back at you, Chico.
Oh, appreciate that. So let me ask you this, because I know somebody listening or a bunch of somebody's listening may be here right now or has been there, but what's your advice to somebody who finds themselves stuck?
Oh, I have a good one on this. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the most common thing is people, when they're stuck, they want to talk about it. And so they're like, I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm stuck. And I can't figure it out. I was going good for a while there, but now I'm stuck. And I'm stuck. And I don't want to be stuck anymore, but I'm still stuck, right?
Yeah.
And so for sure, the thing that's not going to get you unstuck is to keep talking about being stuck. Like without a doubt, if you keep talking about being stuck, you're not going to get unstuck. So the train your brain system is step 1, the wake up step, bust yourself, become aware. Oh my God, I keep saying I'm stuck over and over and over again. And my reticular activating system keeps going, aye, I'm your best friend. I'll help you keep matching that up. This is important to you. Let's keep you stuck. Okay, so if you know that you don't want to be stuck, then step 2 is you have to decide, do I want to keep talking about being stuck and keep matching that up, or do I want to shift it? And if you want to shift it, then step 3 is you must find a way to talk about the current situation in a way that feels good. And step 4 is feel a positive emotion. So how do you do that when you're stuck? So I've got a cheat that'll really help. One of my favorite words in the English language is the word but, and that might surprise you. But the reason is the word but negates everything that comes before it.
Gotcha.
And the brain only hears what comes after it. So if you're stuck and you don't know how to talk about it in a more positive way, you can start to say little sentences to yourself like, I'm stuck, but I'm starting to feel better. I'm stuck, but I'm open to a shift. I'm stuck, but I like that I can think about this differently. I'm stuck, but I feel some movement. I'm stuck, but I'm starting to feel a shift now. I'm stuck, but I'm open to a new shift now. I'm stuck, but I'm ready for a shift. I'm stuck, but I'm ready for some movement. And what happens is the brain only hears the second half of that sentence over and over again. You can't do that. If I sat here and did that for 60 seconds, I'm stuck, but I'm feeling better. I'm stuck, but I'm feeling a shift. Pretty soon, you're going to just be going like, okay, I'm feeling a shift. I'm starting to feel a shift. I'm starting to feel an energy shift. I'm starting to feel like things are moving. I'm open to things moving. I like thinking in my head. I like focusing in the way I want. I like feeling better. I like taking action. I like knowing that I'm in control of the way I feel. Now you start to actually feel that way. And it doesn't take long. I mean, we're talking, what have I been talking for 60 seconds? And so now you're unstuck because now you're thinking differently because you aren't saying that same sentence over and over again that your reticular activating system is matching up.
Very interesting. By the way, I know Brandy's watching and listening. She would have loved to have been on this episode, and you would have loved her too as well.
I know I would love her too. I listened to her and exactly right on simpatico,
Absolutely. So if you could if you could share 3 tips to someone before they begin as an entrepreneur. So you've got somebody that's like, hey, I'm in the cubicle, my life sucks, I'm going to do something about it, I'm thinking about selling candles or whatever they're thinking about. What 3 tips would you tell them before they get started that's going to save them time and heartache?
Oh my gosh. The first thing I would say is, uh, well, I've already given the first one. So the
Hmm.
first thing I would say is, focus on all the things that are going right as you take steps in your business. And then the second thing I would say is make it your priority to believe in yourself. And you do that by saying to yourself over and over again, I believe in myself. I believe I can do this. I believe I can learn this. I can figure it out. I can figure it out is one of my favorite mantras. People think of mantras or affirmations as like I was saying earlier, money is flowing to me in mass quantities, but I can figure it out is the best mantra
Yep.
ever. Like, I will figure this out. So make it a priority to say, I will figure it out. I believe in myself. Things are working out for me. All of these little good sentences. And then surround yourself with other people who are doing it. Surround yourself with other people who are on the same path and who are successful and positive in doing it, because you're going to find enough people who don't get it, because not a lot of other people have big dreams for themselves, and they're not dream killers, and they're not like bad people. They just don't have that gift of faith for themselves. Entrepreneurs we're a strange bunch.
Oh yeah.
We're the ones that are evolving the culture. And when you're the ones that are evolving the culture and changing, and the dreamers and the doers and all that good stuff, you're like a unicorn. And other people aren't going to get you that much, and it's okay. Be happy with that. So find other people who get you.
Yep. Very good answers. I really like that. It's funny. You saw me jotting down notes here on video. So I used to work with a guy. I was probably, see, I just met my wife. So I was probably 21, and I worked at a car wash. And I used to work with this other guy that was old enough to be my big brother, but not quite old enough to be my dad. Well, I guess he could have been my dad. So he's maybe double my age, but real nice guy. And I've always had a strong work ethic, but there was people around me like in the same type of role. I think I was a manager trainee or something, but they were kind of lazy, and this guy would get really frustrated with him. And he'd always say 2 things to him. He'd always say, figure it out and get it done. That's all he would say. And at first I was like, what's wrong with this guy? And then I was like, he's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Like literally most things, like if somebody says, find a cure for cancer, go, you have 60 seconds. Like, I don't think that's going to work. But if somebody is like, I'm going to tell you this right before we get on this, somebody I don't know messaged me on LinkedIn and said, are you happy with your life? And I was like, ooh, boy, ooh, where are they coming from? And I said, hell yeah, are you? But I don't know who this person is. But it's like, if you're not, do something different. You can't do the same things and expect the same outcome. But I find myself telling my son and my daughter all the time, figure it out. Figure it out.
Oh my gosh. I
You
don't
know?
know how old you are, but that was my generation,
Yep.
right? Like
I'm
like my parents.
38.
Yes. Okay. So I'm much older than you. However, it must be the Midwest culture, because
Yeah.
I know at 55 is how old I am. And I remember as kids, and you probably had this experience too, our parents didn't like try to figure stuff out for us, or if there was a neighborhood fight or whatever, they would just go work it out and go
Yep.
figure it out. And it really, there is something to be said for that. Like the idea of that everything is figure outable, and you don't, if anybody has ever done it, or if anybody possibly could do it, then why not you? Why
Yep.
couldn't you?
Yep.
Why not?
I don't know why I always think about Neil Armstrong walking on the moon. I'm like, literally a man went to the moon and walked around. Like
It's crazy,
what
isn't
we're
it?
talking about is not that big of a deal. My 9-year-old daughter the other day said, Dad, I want to heat up this soup, but every time I put a napkin over the soup, the napkin gets wet. Can you do it for me? Absolutely not. Figure it out.
Yeah,
Like you're really smart. You're book smart. You're common sense smart. Figure out a different option. Do
but you,
anything but use another napkin.
and
Pick
do you hear
something.
that message you just gave her,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
mean, you're smart. You're telling
Yeah.
him you're smart. You can
Yep.
figure this out. You're smart. I mean, what a great message to give your kids. And your daughter, she will know she's smart. And my mother was the same way. She
Yeah.
just expected that I would figure things out.
Yep. It's so funny because, I'm a pretty good cook and I can clean and, do everything but major electrical around the house. And a lot of that just comes from something was broken and figured out.
Especially now, because you got the
YouTube.
YouTubes.
Yeah. I mean,
You got the
it's
YouTubes. It's
unbelievable.
like there's
So
no excuse to not figure anything out because the YouTubes will
absolutely.
get you there.
Well, you've got a lot of awesome things going on. What's next for you and your business, say the rest of this year and early 2020?
You know what, my big focus now, I've realized like my best niche in the marketplace besides mindset is that combination of mindset and helping people do what I call stepping into their celebrity. So it's really like no matter what your personality, no matter what character traits you've got, no matter what flaws you've got, you're perfect just like you are to be successful and to use whatever skills and gifts you have to your best advantage. And you don't have to worry about the stuff you're not good at. Maximize what you are good at and step into your celebrity and be authentically you. So like my mission is to help people make money by being happy and get paid to be them, get paid to be you. That's the ticket. And so I've got a few courses and a few paths in my world that get people there, and it's exciting for me. Like I'm one of those people, like I want to be a celebrity maker. I want to be that person behind the scenes who helps these people rise to success. And I know you're really good at that as well, Jason, where you're really helping people see their crap.
Yep.
you know?
I
And
like what you're saying. And, the come as you are is powerful because in business and in life, people are like, well, this guy or this girl is doing really well with YouTube. So now I got to learn YouTube, but I hate video. No, you don't have to. There's so many paths to success.
oh my
There's
gosh,
so many
right?
paths. It's like, what do you like to do? Okay, do that. Well, how do I know it'll work? You won't know till you try. So try.
Seriously, and Jason, it's just like you talking about loving fishing. You know what
Yep.
I mean? It's like somebody could have said to you, yeah, but why don't you learn chess? And you're like, no, I love
You know what's
fishing.
funny? My stepdad actually had that conversation with me and made me join a chess club in 4th grade.
Oh my God,
And
I
I had
pulled
like
that out of your brain.
I had a big afro, and I was like, I'm going to tear this out of my skull if I can't quit because I don't want to play chess. So
But it's exactly that. And what's crazy, like we were talking earlier about shiny object syndrome with
yeah,
entrepreneurs. And so we sit here and we're like, oh, I love interviewing and I love having a podcast, but everybody says I should be on Snapchat or on Instagram. So I'm going to go do that, even though I'm not good at it or I hate it. It's like, why do we do that to ourselves? Why don't we just follow what feels like this feels like me. This feels like
yep,
me to do this and make that your thing. Nail it.
yep, absolutely. I had a buddy yesterday, my oldest friend in the world said, are you on Snapchat? And I was like, no, because I know my age. I'm not trying to be 20 and my target demographic's not there. So I'm
I'm
not
way
going
not on Snapchat either. Even though
Oh,
my
very
niece
cool.
wanted me on it, I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So if somebody listening or watching is inspired by what you're saying, which I'm sure they will be, what's the best way they can get in touch with you or learn more about your brand?
Well, I have a surprise for you. Are you
Let's hear
ready?
it. I like surprises.
I figured that the best way for people to understand Train Your Brain would be to get the whole audiobook for free, my favorite price. So if they go to danawilde.com/Jason and Brandy, they can get the entire Train Your Brain 6-hour audiobook for my favorite price, free.
Free
And
99.
yeah, free 99. Oh, I'm so stealing that. I will
Take
give
it.
you credit the first 3 times I say it. Yeah, and obviously, I mean, there's more about me at danawilde.com, but I figure the best way is just to get the book.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. And I know my audience will as well.
Okay, thank you very much. This is fun. I really enjoy your show, and I love like what you're doing out in the world, and I'm really glad I could be a part of it.
No, thanks for coming on. And I told you it would not be that boring meat grinder style, didn't I?
You did. You did. I knew it would be a good interview style. It wouldn't be like that. Here's my 6 questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again for your time and we'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye, Jason. Bye, everybody.